Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of the Market Financial Solutions Let's Talk Property podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to share a quick disclaimer. Market Financial Solutions are a bridging loan and buy-to-let mortgage provider and are not legal, financial, investment or tax advisors. This content is for informational purposes only and does not and should not be considered to constitute legal, financial, investment or tax advice or be relied upon by any person to make legal, financial, investment or tax decisions. Therefore, investors are encouraged to seek appropriate professional advice. The opinions and views expressed in this episode are personal to the host and guests and may not reflect the views of Market Financial Solutions. Now, let's get started.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Property podcast. Today I'm here with Steph Batey and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm dead excited.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk to you about your journey and everything. So we've known each other for many years now, which is great. Followed you through your property journey. So it's really exciting. You've recently started, you started your property journey in education. And you now run a property school. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What inspired you to make the leap into property teaching?
Well, to be honest, when I first started in property, we were doing really well. Still are, obviously, but we were doing really well. And people in my network, in my immediate circle, started to see what we were doing and making money. And I got approached by a couple of friends. First of all, it was a guy I did my teacher training with way back when, years ago. And he said, how do you make this money? Can you teach me? And it's property mentoring at the time wasn't something I considered. So I thought, do you know what? Sod it, yeah, I can, build the plane while I'm flying it. So that started just over 5.5 years ago. I was working with people one-to-one. And then I saw a need for more ethical, more structured education in property where it's actually catering to people's needs rather than a one-size-fits-all. So I decided to start a property school, and obviously I was a teacher, wasn't I, for many years, and I'm the property teacher, so it all just made sense to stick with that theme, and that's where it started, basically just from doing one-to-one, and now it is a community and it's an online program, and I still do a little bit of one-to-one as well for people who really need it. However, the community and the online program, it does the job, and it's exciting and it's rewarding still, so which is cool.
And so you launched that in 2020.
I launched the one-to-one in 2020, again, accidentally, but I launched the actual property school of January this year.
Wow.
And since then, I put my program online for the first time, which I'd never done before. And since then, it's just gone from strength to strength, but it hasn't grown too quickly because I have to be mindful. It's just me.
Yeah.
And it's not my full-time job. With a lot of property educators, they do it full time. It's a way that they make good money, and no judgment there. But for me, it's just one aspect of my property business, if you like, and I love it.
So, what made you, or what do you think was missing from the educational space that you feel that you want to do things differently?
Qualifications of the people doing the training, to be honest, and not to discredit any property educators out there. Mm-hmm. I got property education. I would say 3/4 of it was horrendous. It was boring, it wasn't accessible, and we had to keep paying more and more and more to get help. Mm-hmm. So what was missing, I think, was, again, not discrediting any educators out there, but people who actually know how to relay information and cater to individual needs. So obviously 13 years as a secondary teacher, I was a senior leader. I've done research in education. I know how to teach people, and I don't mean that arrogantly, but I know how to teach people in a way that is completely accessible. And I will adapt what I'm doing or how I'm teaching or how I'm presenting or the resources, the worksheets, the spreadsheets. I will adapt anything to cater to them and what they need.
Okay.
And I know we'll probably speak about this later on. What else is missing? Being able to teach people 20% of our population who are neurodiverse. So if you're dyslexic or you have dyscalculia, what if you can't access large pieces of text? What if you can't run the numbers by hand? So there's a lot missing, and I'm trying to bring that to the space so that there isn't a barrier for people to learn how to build wealth.
So you're basically bringing all of your education, what you've learned from teaching, into the industry as well, and people learn in different ways. You know, you can get practical learners, people that learn from reading, etc. But so how important then do you think it is to have education in this industry? Because it's one of those subjects that we don't talk about enough, I don't think, but I think education is key to being successful.
I think so. And I'm a big advocate anyway of education. And I know that the school system isn't perfect. And I was talking about that to my friend on the way here about how it's failing on a lot of kids. But how important is this education? Well, massively, because in this space, and you might have heard it yourself, because I know you work with a lot of developers, entrepreneurs, you might hear people saying things like, school is failing our children. They're not teaching them financial literacy. They don't know about mortgages. They don't know how to make money work for them. And that is absolutely true. But then to access this education, you've then got to pay tens and tens of thousands of pounds to learn it, which is very much the going rate in property education. Yeah. But, you don't know what you don't know, and you have to pay it to get access to that stuff. Yeah. But these people who charge this money, they're replicating the same harm as when I say that people say about school, we're not getting taught the things we should be taught to make money and build wealth or whatever later on in life. Yeah. But then they're going and replicating that same harm by making the financial, the access to this education, there's a financial barrier to it. They're making it harder to get into it. So for me, I'm thinking, well, education is important. I went into teaching to improve the life chances of children through education. Mm-hmm. And I think that education mostly does that. But now I'm trying to improve the life chances of people through a different kind of education. Yeah. But instead of opening an envelope with A-level or GCSE results, they're getting keys to a house, and getting money in the bank. And it's important. Sorry, I've forgotten what the question was now, Michelle. I do that a lot.
It's okay. It was to do with education in the industry. So we've kind of covered that point now, which is great. So you've made a huge point of, how inaccessible some of these courses can be for people, and also about your morality within educational space. So in regards to that, how do you keep your course affordable, and especially in an industry where prices are sky high at the moment?
Well, I don't charge the earth, but there are some times I'll get on calls with people and I'll do a discovery call. I'll talk about one-to-one mentorship and I'll talk about my online program, and they are shocked at the price of it. Yeah. But it's only because they're not in that world and they don't know the price of education in property anyway. Okay. But I think it's quality. I only say what I deliver is quality because I've had the feedback and my learners achieve what they set out to achieve. Yeah. But I do keep the price relatively low. They don't have to remortgage their home to come and work with me or to join the property school.
Okay. So, I mean, the property education industry is unregulated at the moment. You've kind of touched previously on that regulation isn't necessarily fit for purpose at the moment. What do you think needs to change within that?
So at the moment, as I say, you pointed out, there's no regulation. I think it's coming in, and I do believe, that I won't name the body, but there is a body of people or, a company, a consortium, whatever you want to call it, who are trying to bring some regulation to this industry, which is a good thing. But when I had to fill in this form for this accreditation, it was just asking me about what my course content was, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But why not ask what my results are? Why not say, can we speak to some of your learners? Why not ask for references for people who have been mentored by me, gone out, raised finance, got a flip, made 50 grand, or got 5 buy-to-lets or whatever? Yeah. Why aren't they focused on learner outcomes? And again, is it me being too picky and pedantic? I don't know, but I'm passionate about education and quality education, because how do they know that I'm any good at what I do, because I could come up with any old crap, couldn't I?
Yeah.
I could put it through ChatGPT, copy and paste it, and it'll sound amazing.
Yeah.
But really, it needs to be focused on learner outcomes, not the trainer and necessarily even the delivery. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm biased because I used to manage teachers and work with, people who held me to account for my outcomes.
And then, so kind of touching on that point, how personally do you hold yourself accountable to stay ethical in the industry, especially when you're working with beginners and people with limited financial resources?
It's a funny question, that. And on the way here, I was going through the questions and I asked my friend Laura, who was on the train with me. I said, that's a tricky one. What do you think? And Laura's done, my friend Laura. Yeah. Hi, Laura. Has done my property education training as well. And I said, what do you think? And she answered that for me. And she said, I'm honest. I said, okay, yeah, I am. I will say it as it is. I don't sell a pipe dream. I'm not there saying, there's one education company out there at the moment that told one of my mentees, who paid them a significant amount of money and then they didn't get anywhere and then they came to me, that she could make 100 grand in a year. And I said, okay, I'm not saying that's impossible, but you're a teacher, you've got 2 children, your husband is going through surgery at the moment because of his kidneys. At what point do you have the time to go out and execute a strategy where you're going to make £100,000 when you've never done this before in your entire life? You are starting from scratch. So it's being honest, it's being transparent, and it's also being realistic. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think, could I get further with this? Could I get more mentees? Could I get more learners? Could I make more money with it? Because, I do make money. I'm no martyr. I make money for it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't make money from it. But ultimately, I could probably make a lot more if I lied to people and said, yeah, you're going to make 100 grand in a year. So it's the honesty, it's the transparency, and the realism. And sometimes people don't come on board because I won't promise them anything. And I think in regards to keeping it affordable as well, it's worth noting it's not my mainstream of income. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be charging people 10, 15, 20 plus grand to give them this information. Yeah. I don't like gatekeeping. It's, yes, they have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And to some people, it's not affordable. But I also of the mindset, if you can't afford £1,000 to £3,000 with no hard upsells, that's the most that they'll pay, you probably shouldn't be investing in property at all, because you have to have that investor mindset. If I'm investing in something and I'm going to get an education from it, that's an investment in itself.
And then, so sort of talking about that side and more into the education, can you break down the 4 pillars of your course and why you feel that each one matters for someone buying their first buy to let or doing their first buy to sell?
So the Path to Property programme, it does have the 4 pillars, and this is me probably being a bit, again, pernickety for an English teacher. Okay. That's not the best word, but it is, because I'm very much about curriculum and very much about structure. I've been designing curriculums for 13 years. So it starts with the first pillar is establish. So they'll watch a series of videos where they will look at their growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. They will look at what their new identity is, because I think you've got to shift identity. You've got to shift from I'm an employee to I'm actually going to be a CEO of my own business here. Yeah. So we look at that. We look at everything that they need to shift that identity into that CEO mindset. And I feel it's important to establish that. We learn a little bit about property cycles as well. Mindful, I'm more of an amateur economist than a qualified one. So we look at property cycles, and it's just laying that groundwork so that they're in the best possible place to then actually go into the property work. Some of that also includes looking at their attitudes to money and their relationship with money. I get them to write a letter to money, which people
that's interesting.
Have you ever done it?
No, never.
Give it a go. I don't know, especially I'd never looked at it this way. I read a book called You Are a Badass at Making Money. So it's not my idea. Yeah. And in it, she talks about how she wrote a letter to money and she gets her clients to do it. Right. And I get them to, if I work especially with them one-to-one, I get them to do it at the beginning and then at the end of our journey together. Yeah. And their attitudes to money completely change. A lot of people go from they have a bad relationship with money, or they're worried about money, they feel it's a chore to try and make money, to it's abundant, it's out there, I've just got to find it. And I know if I need it, I can come to you.
Yeah,
if I need to fund something, I'll just pick up the phone. And yeah, so they do that at the beginning. Then they move into the execute phase. So a lot of people come to me like, I want to buy houses, I want to get rich, but they're terrified of getting out from behind their computer and actually putting shoe leather on the ground and getting off their backside and doing the work that it takes. And it does take a lot of work. So the execute phase is you are learning to do area due diligence. You are speaking to your power teams. You are going and viewing properties. You're surveying them properly. You are meeting builders. You are negotiating with letting agents or estate agents, depending on what strategy. And there's a lot of practice, and that's the biggest part of the module. And then they move in, so it's establish, execute. Then they move into the expand phase, where they'll start meeting members of the power team. So introduce them to you, so Michelle can help you with the money, or introduce them to my accountant or my solicitor.
Yeah.
And what each member of their power team does and how they use them in their business, how they can help them in their business to grow. And then it's the explode phase, where we start looking at some maybe alternative strategies to get off-market deals, direct to vendor, how to make money from a property without even buying it, which is an assisted sale.
Yeah.
Super cool strategy. Another lesson in that is what I call how to get where water won't. So when you are trying to get money, raise finance, because I like to talk about raising investor finance as well. You can use other people's money. It's just a question of where you find it. How to be visible enough so that investors come to you.
Yeah.
So it's getting where water won't, and that's a module that's expanding. And what I like about what I've created, if I may say so, is that I can change parts any time based on the feedback that I get, and that's what we should be doing as educators. And I'm adding to it all the time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm adding to it, it'll probably be finished by next March, April time.
So touching on that, what's the biggest mental or financial barrier that you think people face when they're trying to buy the first property, and then how do you help them overcome that?
I think the most common mental barrier is money. They think that they have to have tens and millions, they have to have millions in the bank to get started, and they don't. And that's why I've created that first pillar of my curriculum, the establish phase, where they look at money and they start thinking about money in abundance. And it's not something that they do that part of the program and that's it. I do refer back to it in my online program, and it's something that I, on a one-to-one basis, I will bring into the practice. It's thinking that there's not enough of money, not enough properties, not enough of the money out there.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest barrier, I think, for people to get out of their own head and think, actually, there's money everywhere. I just need to know how to find it. And when people think they I can't afford this, or I'm never going, you're letting yourself off the hook. There's money everywhere. It's sick how much money is out there. And if I can say one positive thing about the training that I did, the first ever person I sat in front of who did some property education with me, she was great. And she said, write this down. So I wrote it down in capital letters. Money is my least limiting factor. And I have since 2018, was when we started, I have lived by that in every area of my business.
Right.
Because if you think something's going to limit you, it does. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know it's not a one size fits all, but what would you say success looks like for your students?
I think it's individual. So if we work together on a one-to-one basis, or even if they do their online program, they are encouraged to, and with guidance, obviously, to consider, well, what would success look like? So for most people, it is confidence in running the numbers, confidence in area due diligence, confidence in, right, I need, how to delegate which task to which member of the power team. It's the knowledge. And I think what else success looks like is, if they don't quite get that property in the time that we work together, but they know exactly what to do to go out and get that property. But for most of them, it's getting the keys to the property or making the money. So one of my mentees at the moment, he started with like literally zero. However, he paid me with a credit card. So that's how zero he was. And I said, if you can't afford it, I can't advise you to get a credit card. Then I'm always going to be here, but you can wait. And he was like, I'm not waiting, I'm doing it. So he literally started with zero. He got his first flip. He got 100% finance through angel investors. Wow. And he's going through the refurb at the minute. He's on track to make 40 to 50k. Like, that's success to me. Yeah. But even if somebody just says, I feel so much more confident and I know exactly what to do and I don't need to keep paying you thousands and thousands and thousands to learn, that's success to me as well.
Because they know your job.
I've educated them, and I don't need to upsell them into another thing. If I've done my job, they don't need me anymore.
Yeah. And then kind of branching out, so congratulations again, because you've created Women in Property Volume 1, which is amazing, with more volumes on the way, of course. What inspired you to do this project?
So do you know what's funny is, I have to tell this story. I was approached by a book publisher who was also, Barnthorne Publishing, a good friend of mine, Neil Thornton. He approached me. I'd met him a couple of times at a networking event, and he rang me and said, I've got this idea. So it wasn't my idea, to be fair, it was his. I want to do a book series called Women in Property. Do you want to be involved? You'll have to write a chapter. I thought, do you know what? I was an English teacher. I bloody love a good book, I do.
Yeah.
So I said, do you know what, Neil? I said, who's writing your introductions and who's finding the women? And he said, well, I was going to do it. And I said, but you're a guy, so come on. And he said, would you want to co-author with me? So I jumped at the chance. That's how we got involved in it. But do you know what? I can tell you why it's important to me. Property is a male-dominated industry, and that's absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. But it still is, it's very male-dominated. Networking events with men, walking on a building site with predominantly men, so many rooms full of men. I've got some great men in my life, but it's not about, discrediting them or excluding them. It's about uplifting the women in that space where it can be intimidating. Yeah. They can feel like they haven't got a voice, and it's showing other women. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter what your past is. Mm-hmm. What matters is that you can do this. And the women in the book, I've actually got goosebumps. Some of the women in the book, well, all of the women in the books have told their story. And I've had messages from women all over the country. A woman who has had property with her husband, gone through a divorce, and wasn't going to bother with property at all, read the book. I'm going to give it a go now. It's inspired me. A girl from down south messaged me and she said, I've got a beauty business, aesthetics, I've got my own salon. I didn't think it was possible. I'm going to go for it. Now she's actually written a chapter for volume 2 because she's just done her first flip. We're now getting contributors for volume 4, which is incredible. So we're just going to keep going. But from that, I'm also now self-publishing. I never thought this would happen. So
brilliant.
It's the ADHD brain. I'm like, start it. I'll say yes and figure it out later. So now I'm creating what's called the Women In series. So I've got women in trades, women with ADHD, and we're doing one about teaching as well. But I don't think that's just going to be just women. Because I've got the means and I've got the time to try and elevate women in different spaces. So the women in trades one's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm intrigued for that one.
Definitely. So if anyone's listening and wants to get involved, come my way because I need people.
Brilliant. And so you covered kind of the part that you feel that women are still a bit underrepresented in property investing. How do you think that we need to start shifting that in the industry then as a whole?
I think we need to get the men in the room and tell them off now. How do we start shifting it? Well, I think, and again, I think the onus is on us as women to speak up and not only represent ourselves, but be representative of other women who may not be necessarily as confident as some others. But I also think it's the responsibility of the men in this industry not to tick a box. not to call us sweetheart, not to call us love, not to call us young ladies, but to treat us as professionals in a space where we are underrepresented. And I think it's also our big corporations. You know, we've got big corporation housing developers, we've got financial lenders and so on. I think it shouldn't just become a tick the box. It should be, how can we be completely inclusive? And rather than it being something that they have to do because it's about equality. So I think people, some organizations, some networking events maybe should have a really, really good look at that and reflect on how they present themselves and how they are helping elevate women in the space. Yeah.
And then, so you've mentioned a couple of times about ADHD, etc. So you're really passionate about supporting neurodivergent people in property.
Yeah.
What are some ways in the industry that you feel that the industry needs to do better on that side?
I think it's easy to assume that if you relay information to somebody, that they'll understand it and they'll access it. But what people don't know, or what I think not even all teachers know this, because I didn't know this, is that 20% of our population, whether they're diagnosed or not, will be neurodiverse. 20%, that's what all of the research shows us. 1 in 5. 1 in 10 dyslexic, 1 in 20 ADHD, 1 in 60 autistic. And I think it's important, particularly for property educators, to know how these neurodiverse challenges. I don't really like to use the word conditions, even though that's the medical term. It's important that they know how those neurodiverse conditions or diagnoses or challenges present themselves. So as a property educator, I could reel off the maths. I could say, let's go through the numbers. But if they have dyscalculia, it's not going to be completely accessible. So it's important for these educators to learn how to relay information, how to teach if you have dyscalculia, which would be a massive barrier to learning in this space. And the same goes for if you have autism and you don't need a diagnosis of autism to have autistic traits. You could be teaching somebody who is autistic or has autistic traits and not know it. And you're telling them to go into an estate agency and grill the estate agents on the best places to buy. They might not find that completely accessible. So it's about working with them and what approach is best for them. And how everybody with autism communicates differently. It's a myth that people with autism haven't, I hear it all the time, they can't make eye contact, or they don't smile, or they can't communicate well. But in fact, most autistic people that I work with or know mask very, very well. And it's having the knowledge of that as well. I think sometimes just having the knowledge of that is just as important as knowing how to help them in their property journey. As I think once you know how their neurodiversity presents, having the knowledge of that is half the battle. But yeah, ADHD is my I was diagnosed at age 37 last year, and I had no idea.
So it's quite late on in life.
I had no idea. And I rang my mum. I was like, she's been diagnosed with ADHD, and she told me where to go. And she was like, but you have a master's degree? Like, what? I was like, yeah, because we're told that ADHD is these naughty boys in school who just can't sit still. I'm moving now. I've done this a lot and I'm conscious of it, and I've taken no medication today. So I do talk at the speed of light sometimes. I've got to be aware of that. But it only became apparent to me when I left teaching. Because I'm suddenly, I've been in school my whole life, literally, and I've been ruled by the bell. Everything I did was timed to the last minute, especially my lessons. But I was fast, I was efficient, I was good at my job. And then I'm suddenly a solopreneur, or whatever we coin it. And I'm at my desk on my own with no accountability, no structure. I can be the most organised person in the world on paper, but there were so many challenges, and I thought, what's wrong with me? Got a diagnosis, got medicated, and I haven't taken any today. But yeah,
you're doing well.
You're doing well. But I think it's important that everybody knows about this, especially in the workplace. And I do actually do neurodiversity consultancy, so it's something I'm really passionate about.
And then, so on that side of things, so that's perfect end to this part, is what does doing it right in the neurodivergent space, what does that mean to you, especially in a world that's often, in our business, it's very transactional?
What was the question? What does it mean doing it? How do you do it?
So what does doing it right mean in neurodivergency space?
It means
neurodiversity.
Yeah.
If I can get my words right.
Well, it's neurodiverse, neurodivergent. Well, either I prefer neurodiverse, but what does it mean? It means having a space in the work, whether it's in the workplace, whether you're educating someone, whether it's a client. It's making sure that they know that their needs will be met if they need to be. I mean, you know, you'll know, because if you're hiring somebody for a job, do you have a part of on your application form and it clicks, do you have a disability? Half the people don't even know if they have it.
I was going to touch on that. Yeah, people are undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed, and they might not even tick it because of the fear of discrimination, or I might not get the job. But what does doing it right look like? It's just making sure that there are no barriers to whatever you're offering, and making sure that the space is comfortable enough for them to say, yeah, I've got dyslexia. And dyslexic brains, sorry, just as a side note, are absolutely phenomenal.
Superpower.
Oh my God. Yeah. But the superpower narrative is important, because some people know how to leverage it. But for me, I've really struggled quite a lot. So I don't think I do have a superpower, but then sometimes I can do a week's worth of work in a day. And then the next
Definitely
day,
a superpower.
And then the next day, I'm like, why can't I just get out of bed? So it's because I'm unemployed and I don't have to get up. But
it's burnout as well, though.
Huge, especially if you've that ADHD brain doesn't stop. It's a constant stream all the time, and this is where it's important to know how it manifests in women, because it's not always physical hyperactivity, it's cognitive. And it can affect them in lots and lots of different ways. So making adjustments, or what we call reasonable adjustments for people, for me, it doesn't just start and end in the workplace. I make sure that I'm reasonably adjusting whatever that needs to look like for that learner, or even, you know, an acquaintance, or, you know, a networking event for anybody that's in my company, hopefully.
So, and then to finish off the podcast, what 3 tips would you give to someone starting from scratch who wants to learn about property investing?
Number 1, come to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think the first thing that you need to ascertain is what you want to do. What strategy? Do I want cash flow, or do I want chunks of capital or chunks of money? Because that knowing knowing what you want to begin with will then determine the second thing, which is to find the area where that strategy fits. Then find the property. It's funny, I get people on Instagram people I don't know, Michelle. Sending me like random Rightmove links. I'm like, A, I don't know you. B, you're doing it completely back to front. You need to start with your strategy. 2, find an area where that strategy works. Then find the property in that area for that strategy. So strategy, area, property. But come and see me first.
And how do people contact you?
So I am online, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't do much on TikTok except watch dog videos.
Yeah, I was saying before, I had parrots. So
so I just cross-post to TikTok. I'm not massive on there, but you can find me at Steph, that's with a PH, at Steph, the property teacher. The website is under construction. I'm constantly tinkering with it, but it's property-school.com. But the best protocol is Steph, the property teacher on Instagram.
Lovely. And we'll look forward to your new volumes of Women in Property coming out.
So depending on when this goes out, volume 2 will be out in September, volume 3 at Christmas, volume 4 to some point in 2026. So if anyone wants to get involved in that, they've got a story to tell, contact me.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and see us today. It's been great chatting with you, Steph.
Thank you.
I'm Michelle Lowe and Steph Batey, and it's been a pleasure to do the podcast today.
Pleasure. I've had a great time. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate and share it. You can access our previous episodes in all of the usual places, as well as on our website at www.mfsuk.com/podcast. You can also stay connected with us on Instagram at mfs_LTP. See you next time.